service.
Hey everyone, welcome to Chef Sense. I'm your host, Chef Massey. All right, so we went on a field trip to Hill Rock Estate Distillers. They're located in Ancrum, New York, in the beautiful Hudson Valley.
That was fun, man.
It was.
You know, you live in this area for so many years, and then you don't realize that you've never been on certain roads, and that was one of those days where we were on, like, some new roads.
Right.
Like that.
It was, and it was great because we always end up catching up and talking about things, but going and arriving there, it is this beautiful estate. You're going up this winding road and you're going to the visitor center there and you're pulling in, and it is owned by Jeffrey Baker and also Kathy Franklin. We were lucky enough to actually get the chance to do a tour with the man, you know. And here's another thing. Oftentimes in my career, I love doing things like this because, like you've heard me say, if I can step into someone else's world, I gain a richer appreciation.
Agreed, yeah.
And I have a knowledge base for the whiskeys, bourbons, and an appreciation already, and really a love for Hill Rock. But for you and I to do the tour, that's where, as a chef, as we're going out and picking, or we go to the food shows, we go to these things, seeing you enjoy that tour, it inspires me, and I get a level of appreciation out of it too, because we're both seeing some really amazing stuff in there.
Yeah, especially with that kind of thing. A lot of people don't even think about the behind the scenes when they're taking a sip of whiskey.
Right. And we did a tasting there. Jeffrey was with us on that. You guys will hear that as well. And it was just very inspiring. We're going through their establishment on that tour. And Jeffrey's even talking about this Solera process, which I don't want to go into full detail because I'll probably jumble it up a bit. It's an amazing process that they use for ports and sherries. And so going into Hill Rock, they are a world-class establishment. They have their Solera-aged bourbon, their double cask rye, and their single malts. What did you think about the tasting? I mean, it was
awesome, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I've mostly done wine tastings, so to do a tasting like that was a little different,
Right.
And just like trying to get into the particulars, it was just interesting to see what the process for each was and then what the difference was in the taste.
The notes that are in there.
I can't say I have a favorite, but
right.
They're all it was all very different.
They're excellent.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of Hill Rock is their commitment to really being passionate about where they come from.
Yeah.
That field to glass concept, that it's theirs, and they are owning the entire process from their artisanal well that comes, and then they do their corn, barley, and rye. They select those specifically, and they use sustainable farming practices. No pesticides, no herbicides, no chemical fertilizers on their crops. It's 850 acres, and it's just beautiful. And Jeffrey is, and Kathy as well, understanding that terroir, we think about that with wines, right? The gravel, the levels, the layering in the soil, and Mother Nature and what it provides, and heat and everything, right? That it's a good year, it's a this, it's a that. They have that same commitment in what they do, and taking that terroir concept. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, it was cool to do the podcast at the place.
Oh, yeah.
There were some noises, there was a little bit of noise. It sounds a little different than the normal podcast.
Right.
We were on a field trip.
Yeah, and when we were in that big visitor center, which it was vaulted, and, you're right there with those beautiful, copper distillers on the other side of the wall, and they're still working. They got work to do.
Yeah.
So there's no slowing down.
Yeah.
But it was a great opportunity for us to get in there and get inspired. So,
what I thought was cool was they don't have any outside investors, so it's really it's their operation.
Right.
That makes it. There's no outside influence. There's no.
There's not
some of these
extra
things that can really affect the outcome of your business.
Right.
So it's cool that he had another career that he was funded this with, and
Yeah.
You know, that was interesting to me.
Yeah, and Kathy with her real estate. I mean, it just all of it. That very fortunate. Yeah. That was that's a very good point. So, but yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, very cool. It was a lot of fun. So we had a blast.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's roll into the episode. So guess what, guys? Today on the podcast, we are doing a field trip. Jackson and I are at Hill Rock Estate Distillery. We are so lucky because we have the man, Jeffrey Baker, with us. Welcome.
Well, thank you, James. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, and I have to share with everyone, not to make you jealous, but we're going to go into a tasting also with him. We just got done with a tour, Jackson and I, with Jeffrey, and it was truly inspiring. There's a reason why, we're here today is to, say thank you all for being the bar, and continually raising that with your passion of what you do. So can we go into just kind of start up of, how did you get into this? I mean,
some people might say I'm out of my mind, but I grew up working on farms as a kid. So I had this whole love of agriculture and farming. And when I moved to New York in 1986, I pretty quickly realized I needed to have an escape. So I set up my first farm was about 100 miles north of New York, and I had one of the earliest rotational grazed dairy herds in the East Coast in the late 80s, then pasture-raised beef. And you might say I was a little ahead of the trend. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately I wanted to do something very special here at this location that really accentuated the importance of the Hudson Valley and the terroir that we have here. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at everything and was inspired by Captain Israel Harris, who built our house in 1806, who became a really successful grain merchant in the early 1800s. So I was like, wow, I didn't even know they were growing grain here. And as it turns out, there were probably 1,000 farm-based distilleries. So that sort of inspired me to look at the movement, the whiskey movement that was just beginning to happen in the craft space. And I thought that the industry was behind by a few decades, behind wine, that is. Yeah. And so my theory was that whiskey should be just like a fine wine in that it should be estate-grown barley or rye or corn, and the whiskey should come from individual fields that are unique. Right. So we started doing that from day one when we set up the operation in 2010. And we brought in the ex-Maker's Mark Master Distiller Dave Pickrell, and we just created this operation really from scratch.
Okay. And when we listen and we've seen in the amazing work that you all do here, it really is, like you say, that field to glass concept. I mean, can you kind of give a little bit of detail on that too? Because it's amazing.
Yeah, I should mention that we trademarked that, by the way. So
okay.
Any of your guests who are thinking of using it, don't.
Do not.
Make it a trendy.
But what field to glass means to us is we control every aspect from growing the grain ourselves to floor malting it traditionally on site, to milling it, to distilling, to aging. So everything that happens with that whiskey between when we plant it to when you're drinking it, we control.
Okay.
And that means it's unique and it can't really be duplicated anywhere else.
Right.
No matter what you do, this location, and we farm about 850 acres. We grow all of the grain for our whiskeys on our own land, and we release whiskeys by individual fields. So it's just not possible to create that same whiskey somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. And that's really amazing. I mean, going up into the malting room there, and seeing the space, and when you look at that square footage of what you're doing, I mean, when you shared that was like an acre of barley, or I mean, you're like, wow, that's a lot. That's some money on the floor.
Well, the other thing people don't at one point we were all farmers.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty rare. And people don't really understand the complexity of farming,
No.
you know, and how different it is every year. So our grain is different every year. You know, one year there's a drought and it's stressed, just like in a vineyard, just the way the grapes are, and then all of that makes its way into the whiskey and influences it. So for us, that's what's exciting about it is dealing with the realities of farming makes everything more complicated, but also just so much better.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So looking at your process too, you have the Solera process. Can you go into that too? Because that's a whole nother amazing, beautiful.
Yeah. So
discussion.
we borrowed a lot of ideas from the wine world, and Solera aging has been used for centuries by port sherries, cognacs, some other products worldwide, but never for American whiskey. So we thought that it made a lot of sense. So what it is instead of dumping a couple of barrels and bottling them, we have a whole building dedicated to our Solera bourbon. And so we have the nursery, which is where new make bourbon goes into new charred oak barrels and lives there for at least 5 years. Then we have tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. So it's almost as if every time we go to buy something you're drinking is really a combination of all the vintages we've made of whiskey that are older than 5 years old. So they're mingling together in that Solera. And every time we draw a little bit out, we add a little new make to the 5-year-old plus whiskey. So what you're drinking is over 8 years old on average, but it's kind of a marriage of many different vintages.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we have the tasting here. I mean, do we want to dive into this? I mean, kind of...
Well, why not?
I mean, yeah.
Why not? So, as you may know, James, we produce 3 basic whiskeys. So we create a bourbon whiskey, which, as you might know, the mash bill for bourbon whiskey has to include corn, at least 51%. Ours is a higher rye content. Okay. Then we make a rye whiskey, which is all estate-grown rye, 100% rye. And then we make a single malt whiskey, which is all estate-grown barley, which is then floor malted on site. They're all uniquely different. And I'd just invite you, James, just to take the covers we'll and let's just smell them a little bit. Start with nosing them.
Okay.
And I think bourbon, we'll go left clockwise. So we have 2 bourbons. We have our Solera-aged bourbon. Then we have a Solera-aged bourbon that's been finished in a Dick Shea Pinot Noir cask from Shea Vineyards. Then we have our double cask rye, which has gone into 2 new charred American oak casks. And then we have our double cask rye, that's the founder's release, which is basically been finished in port, Sauterne, and Madeira casks.
Oh, wow.
And then we have the single malt.
Yep.
So let's smell the bourbon first. So, James, you notice, do you pick up those, it's kind of sweet notes. Corn gives you a little bit of sweetness, but ours goes into Oloroso sherry cask, so you're also maybe smelling a little bit of that nutty, fruity, floral characteristic, right?
Oh, that's beautiful.
And for all your podcast fans, I hope you come and visit us. So
yes, it's a must.
It's an amazing location, and awesome property too.
So what do you think? That's not bad, huh?
Wow. Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
That's won about 50 gold medals in major competitions.
There we go.
This point.
Nice. Oh, yeah, it's excellent. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
Now, what do you think about the...
definitely.
What do you think about the next one with that Pinot Noir cask? Then you're going to pick up a little bit of that red fruit, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I have this bottle at home. And it's really unfortunate because I'm almost through that one.
Well, we might be able to help you out with that when you get today.
Right. Yeah. See, that one, oh, man.
It just adds a little bit more complexity to it.
I love how the tone of that is.
Yeah, it's really special.
Wow.
It's way different.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm not, you can slow down, but I don't want to rush you here. But then there's the double cask rye, which has won best rye whiskey in the world 3 times in the Berlin competition. And it's also won dozens of gold and double gold medals. What's unique about it is most rye whiskeys are really a cousin to bourbon and have corn in them. Ours is 100% rye.
Right.
So it's got this kind of gravitas to it.
Yep.
And it's almost viscous and very earthy.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All of our whiskeys, they're picking up different profiles, but you're getting char from the barrels.
Okay.
Because the inside of a barrel is really, it looks like charcoal.
Yeah.
And that's where you get kind of almost, in white American oak, which we age in, that has a lot of sugar and vanillin in it. So what do you get when you char that? Creme brulee.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
And then we've got that same whiskey, but then it went into port, Madeira, and Sauterne casks. No, it's almost like an old fashioned in a glass.
It is. It has that kind of tawny type of caramely.
Yeah. Again, that sort of richness, but
wow,
it's really fabulous. This is our founder's release that
excellent.
I married those different whiskey, those different finishes together.
Okay.
Now, both of those rye whiskeys are being released. This was our Wiltsey Bridge 2016 harvest.
Yep.
So it came from a specific field.
Okay.
Now, if you tasted another rye whiskey we make from a different field, you would distinguish the differences.
Okay. Wow.
Now, then there's last but not least. Now, if you like peat smoke, then this single malt.
Oh, there it is. Wow.
It's got a little peat smoke on it,
No,
right?
I got you, yeah.
Now, again, that starts in new charred American oak barrels. Then it goes to ex-bourbon barrels. Then it goes to a Pedro Jimenez sherry cask, and then to an Oloroso sherry cask. Wow. So this has a lot of depth.
That's big time smoky. That's exactly...
Yeah. I would argue this is the top-rated American single malt.
Wow.
It's won a 97 wine enthusiast rating. It's gotten just incredible scores everywhere we put it. Lots of double golds.
Yeah, and I just love the variety where you're getting like caramely, banana, creme brulee, vanilla bean, working your way around.
Layering.
Yeah.
Now, you should try this one then with the port finish on top of that. That's like baker's chocolate and all these other.
Beautiful.
It's incredible.
They were all amazing.
Wow.
I hope your fans aren't jealous.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm sure they will be.
We'll make sure.
Why wouldn't they be? Yeah. This has just been amazing. I mean, so tasting all of these and the amazing varieties that you do have in the future, because in talking to you, you're the here, but you're also the future, this visionary. So do you see things developing further for you, or is this kind of like, we're home in this for right now?
Well, I think for us, it's been about creating a world-class brand here in the Hudson Valley, and really making a statement here. This area is really a special area, and it's becoming, what I call the Napa Valley of the East Coast. We've got amazing cheesemakers and charcuterie makers and winemakers and brewers and whiskey producers. And I think this is a very food-centric place. And it's because you're so rooted in the earth here, and it's such a beautiful place, it's hard not to become enamored by it. So for me, this was a way to create a farm operation that had potential to draw more people here. And we have folks visit from all over the world. which is kind of fun. So, but you asked whether I might add some other things. Well,
right, not to look.
Not that I'm, looking for another job besides farmer, distiller, etc., maltster.
Right.
I have enough spent distiller's grain that I could probably maintain about a 200 head beef herd.
Oh.
So someday I think you might see Hill Rock beef that's basically been, fed on Hill Rock grain.
That whole bio.
But, that's a few years from now. I got enough things.
It was interesting to hear you say that, you had another career, and so that you were able to do this without compromising. And I find that a lot of people will go all in on their passion and then they will need to make money. And so, can you just talk more about that, not compromising?
Well, yeah, I'm a Wharton MBA grad, so I'm a finance guy, amongst some other things. So when I started this endeavor, I knew it had the potential to be highly profitable, or I wouldn't have necessarily embarked on it. Mm-hmm. But I also felt that it was a passion of mine to make the world's best field to glass whiskey. So it was important to us to be able to not cut corners, which meant no partners, no debt. Mm-hmm. And we were able to fund this. And as I said earlier, the whiskey we're making today, we're not selling for probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's a long game, and you have to be patient. And the last thing you want to do is release something before it's really reached its potential. Mm-hmm. So we've been really fortunate with that. At this point, I'm focusing the vast majority of my attention on Hill Rock, and it's just growing into an incredible business.
Right.
We'll be rolling out internationally sometime soon. We're in about 25 states for distribution. We'll be in 50 in 2 or 3, 4 years.
Right.
Sweet.
That's awesome. What do you see in how the industry is going? And you your pride points and maybe concern points for the future? Are there any thoughts?
Well, I think it's kind of funny. So some of you, if you might be wine aficionados, would know in the 70s there was the Judgment of Paris, where Stag's Leap beat Latour and Rothschild in blind tastings. And I think we're kind of in the same inflection point in whiskeys, in that we go head to head in competitions and beat all the established big brands. And that's because we're doing things very traditionally, but with innovation.
Right.
Also. And we're just producing such high quality, and that people are having to look at us.
Yeah.
And so I'm amused, because I also tried to trademark Estate Distillery, but they wouldn't let us. And I now see big brands buying farmland, and starting to think of doing releases that they can call estate releases. And I think that's really what people want. Yeah. They want products that are unique and different and rooted in a place.
Right. And the palates have changed. Even, as being a chef, I know farmers feel that, to cheesemakers, to, all of us. When you're in the roots and that vision from 100% ground up or well up, it just speaks volumes. Yeah. That artisanal side, that touch is so powerful. Yeah. And you taste it with everything you're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely contagious.
Isn't it something? Yeah. So, I'm really grateful, for this opportunity to come in here and do this tour and enjoy some time with you, because it's a real privilege. So
well, it's our privilege to share with you and your listeners.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the best way for people to connect and or come for a visit?
Yeah, so we do tastings by reserve here 7 days a week. Go to our website, book a tour, come on in and visit us. There's so many of our releases that don't leave the distillery that I guarantee you it'll be special if you come here. And there's so many things you can find and buy and take home with you here that you just won't find in the market.
Okay, fantastic. Well, all right. Well, I think, we're going to roll off from here, but, thank you again. And sorry you guys couldn't be here for the tasting because it was outstanding. Yeah, all right, everyone. That is a wrap. You can check us out if you like that. Subscribe. Also, the Instagram, Chef Massey. Let's keep it simple. ChefMassey.com. Have a good one. Bye for now.